meeting to order at 7:02. And we stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lori, did we have any public comments come in regarding anything?
We did not.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the Ordinance Committee Special Meeting on August 12th, 2020?
So moved.
Motion by Rob.
Okay.
Second by Bob Finley. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Great. Okay. Number 5, firefighters abatement. This is the normal firefighters abatement. Rory, and this one was on the agenda. Did you pass this one through?
I believe you guys decided not to take action, so that might be there in error. Or, yes. Yeah, I believe you guys decided to keep the ordinance as is. You're muted again.
We're keeping this one as is, right? Seymour resident, firefighter. Doug Thomas is here to talk about the abatement though, right? But he's on the 65 and plus.
You can speak to the, the current process if you want, in terms of how it's executed. Sorry, you're muted again, Anne Marie.
You keep muting me. Doug?
Yeah.
Can you speak to the current tax abatement for firefighters?
Sure. I can go through kind of our process here. I mean, it first started off as an actual decrease in their property tax bill, but the IRS considers even a reduction in debt a taxable event. So we had to issue 1099s. There's one called a 1099D. That's a reduction in debt. That confused a lot of accountants in town. It confused all the firemen. So we revamped it to where we would just issue a check through the payroll system, and also pay their Social Security withholding. The town takes care of the withholding, and it also takes care of the actual abatement, the $1,000 or $750 for a single, I believe it is. And so that's currently how it's done right now, is we just issue them basically a payroll check. And they get the same thing, if not more, than they normally would have if they had gone through the reduction of their property tax.
Rob Van Egan, you have a question?
Give me the timeline again. When did this happen? When did the IRS flag this as an issue that it changed over?
Well, it never was changed. The IRS had always considered it. It wasn't really until we kind of discovered it. We found out from other towns that have the same program, and they all came up with the same thing. They said, "Wait a minute, this is taxable. We have to, we have to report this."
And when was that?
And so we started. Well, I don't have a date. That was back a few years.
Okay.
I can find out for you, but it was back a number of years.
No, my question is because of Public Act 19-36, House Bill 5125, that was signed by the governor on June 28th of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
That was an abatement for starting at $1,500 and then up to $2,000. as a tax abatement for first responders.
I think that was for paid firefighters though. Is that
No, not from what I was looking at. Because I was kind of Googling around, blah, 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 first responders eligibly, blah, 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 blah. Because I saw the thing that was in kind of tiny writing in our packet. Here's, hold on one second, volunteer. Municipalities may by ordinance provide a certain active or retired volunteer emergency personnel, including firefighters. This is an active retired volunteer emergency responder or firefighter. Please consider reaching out to your local town officials to see if this abatement might be considered by the municipality.
all right, so we do that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I also found a document in November 2006. It says programs to attract volunteer emergency services personnel. And it says state law allows municipality to provide property tax relief to emergency service personnel. And then it defines the tax incentives by law. The municipality may establish by ordinance a property tax relief program for voluntary emergency services personnel. So I'm surprised, and it says this relief may take the form of one, an abatement of up to $1,000 in property taxes due in any fiscal year. So those words were used. So I'm sure, I don't know how the IRS is all of a sudden tell us we can't do that.
Well, let's get Brian Leclerc. Let's get a statement from him.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
The IRS, I don't believe what Doug is telling you is saying we cannot do that. It's the fact that the IRS is saying it's taxable as a benefit or a fringe benefit of some time. It's a taxable event for the volunteer firefighters when we give them this abatement, clearly because it is something that they have to pay taxes on, that is taxable to them. They're receiving something of benefit. I think the question, as Doug was indicating, is rather than 1099 it's being W-2'd in the form of a check. Just an outright check is given rather than an abatement. The statute 1281 small letter W calls for an abatement of up to $1,000. We have an ordinance in Seymour authorizing that abatement. Our ordinance talks about abatement. It doesn't talk about an outright payment, but apparently there was a change made and the firefighters are receiving actual cash check, live checks in the amount of $1,000 once a year, less whatever they're withholding from that. Doug, am I correct? That's what the change was, from going from a 1099 to a actual check, a 1099 for the $1,000 abatement to an actual check being issued with withholding?
Yes, that's correct. And yeah, you're right. I'm not arguing about whether or not they deserve an abatement. That's not up to me. I'm just talking about the tax, the IRS regulations and reporting. And it is a taxable event.
Rob.
So again, Brian, if you can explain this, dumb this down for me, or I'll talk to maybe somebody in accounting. If they're getting $1,000 check less whatever is withheld, what happens? I assume that the tax abatement system was, I owe $5,000 in property taxes to Seymour. Because I'm a volunteer, you're giving me $1,000 credit. So now I'm only writing a check for $4,000 instead of $5,000.
That's correct.
Would be, so to me, that is getting the full $1,000 benefit. Also to our lady first select woman's point earlier, that's also benefiting current citizens of, rather than here's a check, go spend it wherever. It is an abatement of somebody's taxes, full amount, full $1,000. Whereas when they're getting paid, they have to withhold part of that.
Well, yes, it's net very similar, because if someone is getting $1,000 abatement for their taxes, that is a taxable event. That's another benefit that you received, and you have to pay taxes on that. So while your taxes may be reduced in your example from $5,000 to $4,000, you will be getting a tax statement from the town of Seymour indicating that $1,000 benefit. So it'll effectively be costing you a few $100s, depending on what your tax rate is. It's similar to if you received a check. You're not getting a check for the full $1,000. You would be getting it $1,000 less, whatever withholding, based upon the form you've submitted to the town, whatever, single, married, with whatever dependents. So
So you're saying the relief effort is a taxable event?
That's correct. That's correct.
That's like saying for $1,000, I make $50,000 from my employer, and it's as if saying I made $1,000 from the town of Seymour, even though it's just saying I owe them $1,000 less.
That's
They
correct.
make it really complicated to try to do the right.
Yeah.
No, I agree, but by giving them a check, that's not an abatement. That's paying them.
Right. That's where I struggle.
And that's where I'm struggling. And it's to my understanding that money was supposed to be used towards the taxes.
Yeah, that's why I would be in favor of making, let's put my neck out there, but like we said, House Bill 5125 does put it up to $1,500. There's situations where I'd be willing to look at it if we're keeping it as an abatement. And what is involved with that is making an abatement of $1,000, possibly. I'd rather, even if we were going to raise it to $1,500, to keep it as an abatement, but I wouldn't raise it if it's going to be a check.
We can't give out, it's
You
not
can't
an
raise it.
abatement is the whole thing. It's
You
not
can't
an
raise it.
abatement.
This-
We're
You
giving
can't
out-
raise it over to, because the $1,000 was a limit on the offering from.
The state statute is clear, 1281W. The relief, such tax relief may provide an abatement of up to $1,000 in property taxes due for any fiscal year. So it's
Mhm.
capped at $1,000, and it's an abatement for taxes due. So that presupposes you need to have taxes due the municipality as well. You must own real estate or personal property within the municipality.
That's right.
There's also a language later on in that statute saying your local ordinance may authorize interlocal agreements for the purpose of providing property tax relief for volunteers who live in one municipality but volunteer in another municipality. So that would deal with the scenario with I live in Seymour, but I am a Derby volunteer firefighter. There'd have to be an agreement between Seymour and Derby as to how to handle that financially.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
quick question where it says, hold on, sorry, I jumped off. I jumped onto the website. Brian, I see where it says for House Bill 5125, Public Act 1931, Section 1, Section 12-81W of the General Statutes is repealed and the following is substituted in lieu thereof, effective July 1st, 2019, which is what moves it up to period beginning July 1st, 2019, ending June 30th, up to $1,500, then July 1st, 2021, up to $2,000.
Let me just check. What public act are you looking for? Looking at what number?
Public Act 19-36.
I'm going to do something. Let me check quickly to make sure that was actually passed by both houses.
Yeah, the last
By the
thing that I
governor.
saw on it, and that could very well be the case that I'm just looking at the House and not, but this could be something that they're trying to, like, okay, yeah, I see.
Let me just check the number
Could be
here.
something they're proposing.
Signed by the governor, 6/28/19. I see House votes and Senate votes on it.
Mhm. Hold on a second. I'm just researching the statutes here, looking for this, and I'm not seeing it in the listing of the statutes. There's an amendment.
File, joint favorable substitute, committee, proposed bill.
Browse
Oh,
the
so that's
2000
1936, an act for increasing the property tax abatement for certain first responders. Is
Correct.
that the one you saw? Okay, I see that, state capitol. Yeah, I think I saw that.
I see that in the Senate, it got 36 votes, 19 necessary for adoption.
Yeah.
So
It says it's signed by,
Okay,
yeah, after
I
the
found
bill
this.
by the governor. Senate passed.
Yeah.
Give me a minute here. I'm looking at it.
Ah, the internet.
Mm.
Well, Brian's looking that up. Not that that means we have to raise it to 15 or 2,000
Right.
at any time. I'm just, you know,
Yeah, no, that's interesting. You're right. It has been raised, everything I've seen.
I could almost see that as a, carrot over stick, because we had the discussion of, well, this is how, if we're going to do it at all, we're going to do it as a abatement. This is how we feel. Being able to say, well, now it'll be 15, so that'll offset any payments. So you'll definitely get net 1,000 over, since
It's still got to be explained that it's a taxable event. I mean,
yeah.
No, but I've got the
I'm
new
glad it's
statute.
raised because it is a volunteer and they do give up a lot of their time. I'm glad it's raised and I have no issue with that as putting it towards the Board of Selectmen and us discussing about raising it.
Mhm.
Well, we as a town are not writing a $1,500 check.
No,
It
I
has to
would
go
only
towards
be in
the
favor,
abatement. We're not writing any more checks.
keep it as an abatement.
it should be. It should. That's the way it always should have been. I mean,
Yeah. Doug, I don't know why we started writing the checks. Doug,
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look exactly what, when that happened and what happened, and talk to Dana.
I believe
'Cause
they,
I'm guessing what you're saying is you want to switch it back to where it's an actual abatement, right?
yeah.
that's what the ordinance
Okay.
says. The thing is, the ordinance never changed.
Right. I mean, we made that change, but the ordinance says something completely different. I mean, we
So
have to-
whoever agreed to, write the check should have come before the ordinance committee, so at least that should have been changed. But
Yeah.
the ordinance says it's a tax abatement to be used towards personal property, tax property, not to be handed out as a check to go spend however the person wants to spend it.
So this, I found something in the IRS too, Brian. I think that reaffirms what you were saying. It says in some cases, volunteer firefighters receive benefits in the form of state and local tax credits or rebates. If these benefits are offered in return for services performed, their value represents income to the worker for federal tax purposes and should be included in taxable wages. But I mean, that statement, if these benefits are offered in return for services performed.
Clearly,
They
they
are.
are. They are. You only get them if you're a volunteer firefighter performing such services.
You only get them. I mean, and Clay is on here now, so Clay can actually, speak to how the abatements are, not the abatements, how points are accounted for that the firefighters have to meet. I believe they have to make X amount of meetings, X amount of drills. But Clay, the commissioner, he can explain it to us.
Well, that was Clay Jurgen speaking. That was in your packet from I think 2 meetings ago, that had the entire abatement process and how the points and everything was accumulated.
Yeah.
But years of service, any kind of position that you held within the fire department, number of calls, number of meetings, number of drills, number of special events, and all the points are tabulated and then turned in at the end of the year. A little update. I went back through my emails, and my email out to all the commissioners and the chiefs and the company officers is dated July 2nd of 2018, when I was called to a meeting with Kurt Miller, Tony, and Dana. And I was informed at that point that the tax abatement would no longer be taken off of personal property. It was going to be issued as a as a payroll check with a W-4 and W-9, and all that paperwork had to be supplied. Then July 3rd, they issued that, and then on July 13th, I got an email from Kurt Miller stating that the amount would be paid without taxes, and then they took taxes. Now, when it was an abatement, you also received a 1099 at the end of the year, which would include it as wages or as a benefit to you that had to be claimed on your taxes. So it wasn't free. It wasn't like it was going away. The town just changed this, and I asked Kurt many, many times about this, and it was like, that's the way it's going to be. And that's why we're all here.
Yeah. Yep.
But a 1099 includes it as wages on your federal tax return.
Right. Which it says, which the IRS, now I'm looking up here, it does say that's required to be.
Right. So you would be at that point when you got $1,000 off of your personal property or real estate property, and you got a 1099 at the end of the year, that accounted in your taxes for wages or income. So it's not like it went away. And also, I reached out to Oxford, to Scott Pelletier, the chief up in Oxford, and I asked him about his tax abatement program. And he sent me just the other day, he sent me copies of his abatement program, and it is almost identical to ours. The only difference that they did is they amended their tax abatement program so that the younger members that were earning $1,000 and only had car taxes, the town of Oxford pays their car taxes and issues them a check for the remainder of the funds up to the $1,000 or what they were entitled to. That is the only basic difference I can see between their program and ours. And theirs is still in effect as an abatement program. It has not been changed.
And they're receiving a check, you're saying?
The younger members who don't have real estate and only own a car.
Right.
So if their car taxes are $300 and they're entitled to $1,000, they pay their car taxes. They issue a check to them for the difference. So it's basically an incentive program at that point for them. And
Okay,
if they stay in town and they buy a house or whatever, that would convert back over and go on to their real estate taxes. But
Great.
that's
But so those guys that do have a home, it is used as an abatement, comes off their taxes.
correct, as an abatement off personal property and real estate.
Right. Okay. It just makes more sense to do it that way, and that's what Connecticut's actually.
That's what they stipulate. That's how they want it done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no communication from the town to the fire department stating this was going to be changed. It was strictly, Clay, Kurt wants to see you. And I was informed of the change. There wasn't any discussion. There wasn't anything other than the fact that this has been changed. This is the way it will be. Here's your check. We need the following paperwork.
Okay. As far as things go now, what would be the procedure? Would one of us make a motion to revert things back to be in line with how the current ordinance is, and as a separate motion, potentially put forward matching legislation that allows it to be up to 1,500 as purely an abatement? Because that's the problem right now, is that we're not in line with ordinance.
You haven't been for 2 years.
Yeah.
I know, we gotta fix that. So that's the.
So how do we move this forward?
Well, I don't believe that you're going to have to do anything to revert back to the way it was being done, as an abatement.
Just do it.
The state statute only provides for an abatement. If you look at the statute 1281W, and your ordinance only provides for an abatement as well. It's in code section 6-35. And it specifically references in 635, the town has elected to make an abatement of up to $1,000. 636 defines abatement as a reduction in property taxes. And 637 talks about volunteers who are eligible shall be entitled to an abatement in property taxes. So clearly, everything provides for an abatement. The only thing you can do, should you choose, is under the amended statute, is for the period, the current period, go up to $1,500, and or after July 1st of next year, provide an abatement of up to $2,000. You don't have to. It says up to, so it's not mandatory. But you do have that option as a municipality to increase your abatements, $1,500 now, and beginning July 1st next year, up to $2,000.
Okay, so then, again, I guess it just goes back to who controls this and who do we say that to say, we're going to go back to the way that it was?
Well, I think that's an administrative function of the town.
That's the first selectman, right? I mean, that.
Okay.
Well, and the finance director who would have to do that.
Yep.
Okay, so then as a separate item, assuming that's going to happen, our first select woman and finance director are going to get that ball rolling. I would make a motion to the board to bring us in line with the new statute, the 1936, and raise it up to $1,500. With the understanding that now with that, they're definitely going to net over $1,000, as so they deserve for their hard work.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rob, but then they're gonna say when we do this, that we're really not meeting the 15,000. So that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and we're gonna say, no, you're not, but you weren't quite reaching the 1,000 before, and now we're gonna give you more, so you're definitely gonna hit that 1,000, and we're in line with ordinance.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get it. I just want to make sure that's clear that we're on the same page.
Yeah, yeah, it is. You can make some of the people happy some of the time. So that's my motion.
All right, Rob, repeat that motion again.
Like to make a motion for Seymour to follow suit with Public Act 1936, allowing us to increase the tax abatement for volunteer first responders from 1,000 to 1,500, again, as a tax abatement on property tax and real estate.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second it.
Okay, motion by Rob Van Egan, second by Bob Finley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 3-0.
Question,
We'll
Anne
draft.
Marie. Question, how are we going to address 30% of the fire department that are only own vehicles that are entitled to now 1,500 that are only going to get 300 for their taxes? How are we going to address that?
Make them buy a house.
They don't have to pay property tax on their car. I know that, Clay, I understand that for those that don't own
Okay.
property, go ahead, Rob.
Could the wording be on, I'm trying to think how to say this properly. I'm sure Brian can say it better. Up to a $1,500 credit on taxes. Basically, it's going to, so if I only own $1,000, if I only owe 1,000 in property tax, 1,500. If I only have $300 per car, it's taken care of. But you're not getting that difference.
Okay,
No, you cannot get that difference because the state statute, which
Correct.
empowers you as a municipality to do your ordinance, and your ordinance clearly says right now of up to $1,000. The state statute only allows you to give an abatement. no
Right.
more than an abatement.
So
That's your
Oxford
problem.
is going against, Oxford is in error to give people the difference.
Okay, well, they amended theirs and it's in their, if it's in their ordinance. I'll get it out to you just so you
Yeah.
can take a look at it.
Please
Well,
do.
that's great, but it's not an abatement then. It's an abatement plus some, and we can't do the plus some.
Okay, it's not a problem. Question being, the tax abatement that's already in process, that would be, well, they've already been paid for that this year, correct? Yes, they've already been paid this year as a, you've already given them a check for the year of 2020. You've already handed out all those checks.
So this would probably, did we lose Anne Marie?
I think so.
No, probably not.
I'm here, just
No,
a minute.
she's here.
Oh, okay. I'm going to guess that this may be something that has to take effect the next
February 1 for the following
yeah,
year.
half year, something like that after something's been tallied. Yeah,
Yeah, it's in your,
2020 checks.
it's actually in your ordinance in 636. It talks about the certification date of January 31st of each fiscal year. It talks about the grand list year. It talks about the, it has a schedule of payment, which we'll have to amend. Just looking through it quickly here. On or before February 15th, the Board of Fire Commissioners shall submit a list of the eligible volunteers.
I have a question. When we get a chance. Could they use it towards their sewer tax their sewer tax? It is a tax. It is an abatement.
The
They
state
don't know how
statute says property
sewer-
taxes only.
What?
I guess two things. Number one is if they don't own a house, they wouldn't be paying sewer taxes. And number two, that's Clay's point, and that's valid. Second is it talks about property taxes specifically in the
Just a question.
state statute. Yeah, there's really no other way around it, frankly. The way it's
Yeah,
written.
it's a bonus. It's the town
get-
trying to give something.
Okay. I
Because if we're
appreciate
paid
it.
by check, then we become a paid fire department.
And we can't afford that.
So now, Brian, since we already pushed, we have to amend this and have this go for public notice now. Correct?
Right, I was just gonna ask, how would we, because you're changing the ordinance because we're gonna add the 1,500, right?
Yeah, that's the only change.
But
Yep.
then, yeah, so it's really not a change in process as much as just the 1,500.
Yeah, everything else is literally just how Kurt just did it. This will be.
Yeah, but we have to communicate, now, again, someone's gonna have to communicate effectively to the volunteers of this change, because they're gonna be expecting a check.
When did they, Clay, when did they get their checks from 2020? Did that just happen?
Yes, a couple of months ago, it's been happening because it was for the year 2019. We're always a year behind
Okay.
because
Yeah.
you can't get, until we complete 2019, we do the stats. So they got their checks already from 2019, March or April, I believe they got them.
Okay, so March or April of 2021 is when they would have gotten this.
Yes,
Is when they would get this.
dollars wouldn't change and it wouldn't be $1,500 until 2021.
Correct. Yeah, so that one says.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's clear to them from an expectation standpoint of what's the change and how we were in violation of,
Yeah.
of our actually ordinance, and we had to reestablish, we had to get that back in check. So,
Mhm.
We can write up a memo that we can give to the chiefs and commissioners to distribute amongst the membership.
Send it
That's
to
a
me
good
and I'll make
idea,
sure.
Rory.
Clay, are they going to be upset, Clay?
I think some of the younger members are, because they received the check for, well, however, $1,000 less taxes for the last 2 years. Now all of a sudden, they're not going to get anything except for their car taxes or, vehicle taxes paid. So, yeah, I think there's going to be some of them that are going to be upset. But anybody that's been there longer than 2 years, it had always been just paying their vehicle taxes. So they're going to have to understand that the town did this in error, and we're going back to the way the ordinance reads and the abatement program reads.
Okay, we just want to make that clear to them, so there's no, I know they're going to be a little upset, but this is the reality of what we should be doing. So
We have to follow the Connecticut state statute. We have to follow our statutes. So Rory, if you can write out a letter to send to the commissioners as well as the chiefs, that'd be great.
Can do.
And to answer your question, Madam First Selectman, you're correct. Section 6.5 of your charter talks about passage of ordinances and the required public hearing before action. And Rory knows how to tee it up for that as well.
Okay.
I would have never believed until Doug said it about the IRS until I saw it on the screen that they still hit up on they see that as a benefit.
Income.
It's
They'll get you
amazing.
any way they can.
Oof, you ain't lying.
All right. So we are good with that, correct? So actually, number 5, we got straightened out to actually redo that ordinance to meet what the ordinance says. We updated the abatement to up to $1,500. So number 5. So now we're on to number 6, which is the firefighters abatement for 65 plus.
And Madam First Selectman, just to remind you, I think this is how the whole discussion started several months ago. There was an amendment back in 2016 to this ordinance, the same ordinance, which provides that not only active members of these, of the volunteer fire department, but someone who has a retired volunteer firefighter, fire police officer, or emergency medical technician who is retired and completed at least 25 years of service as a volunteer firefighter, volunteer fire police officer, or emergency medical technician in the municipality would be eligible for an abatement as well. So it added the retired language, not just an active duty member of those services.
And why I think it's good if we leave them separate. If we add this or this ordinance in as a separate ordinance, or do you want to continue to put it under the firefighters abatement and make it like A for retired?
Clay Jurgens, Anne Marie, it would make it easier for well, maybe it wouldn't. For the qualification of points, no, it wouldn't make a difference. We would just have to submit a letter as to who those people are that would be eligible for that, along at the same time as we would submit the abatement figures for active firefighters. So it'll all be taken care of at one time.
Okay. So let's go back so we can refresh everybody's memory for the 65 plus. It's not because that they are active in making the calls like the younger generations are, correct? This was
Correct.
as long as they kept active and were given back to their community, but still follow under the same guidelines of the firefighters abatement, Seymour property, lived in Seymour.
Correct. That was the update that I had to send back to you with the changes that you should have. You requested the changes to have the reside within the town of Seymour. Those were the changes that you asked for that I sent back to you. Do you have that?
Do we have that in our thing?
I don't believe so. I've not
No.
seen that.
I sent it to Rory. Can I read it to you?
Oh, hold on. The fire commissioners are requesting the following requirements for over 65 years of age, 25 years of service pursuant to the House Bill number 5277 for ordinance within the town of Seymour. Any firefighter that reaches the age of 65 with a minimum 25 years of service not able to actively participate in the day-to-day operations of the department, but is willing to maintain some level of activity within the department for the benefit of the department shall be eligible for that abatement. Is that the one you're speaking of?
No, you asked me at the first meeting to include that you had to be a resident of the town of Seymour and would only be paid on real estate or personal property within the town. And I
Yes, I
sent
did ask you that,
Rory.
yeah.
There was
I
an
don't
update.
have that.
Can I read it?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah, sorry.
The second paragraph, any firefighter that reaches age 65 with a minimum of 25 years of service with the Seymour Fire Department, which is what you had me add, not able to actively participate in day-to-day operations of the department, but is willing to maintain some level of activity within the department for the benefit of the department shall be eligible for the abatement. This abatement shall only be paid on real estate or personal property within the town of Seymour. And then the last statement was any fire may request review of his or her abatement through the Board of Fire Commissioners. Those are the changes that you asked me to make. I'll send it back to Rory so I can get a copy to you.
Please.
Yes.
I have to clarify one thing. When we talked about the first time, you asked me how many firefighters would be eligible and what would be the monetary impact to the town. We talked about the possibility of up to maybe 20 people, but you have to realize that probably 18 of those people are receiving a tax abatement now because they are still active with the department so that they can get their tax abatement. Some of those individuals are up in age and would probably move over to this portion and not be active anymore. So the monetary aspect to the town would be minimal at this time. They're already receiving a benefit. They would just go to a different list.
And it wouldn't require them to have all the active credits and all that other stuff.
Correct. You would either be active and accrue points and get your tax abatement, or you would be non-active and receive it on the 65-25.
Right.
Either or, not both.
Yep.
So you
Correct.
would not be participating actively in the Seymour Fire Department.
So I like to have maybe that language in there too, Clay, that it's either, it's either or.
Well, it says not, the wording that was in there and is still in there. I got to go back to it. Hang on one sec.
I think she just means to be clear that somebody couldn't say, I am active and now I'm over 65, so I should get
$3,000.
$3,000 total.
Yeah.
So I think as long as
Right.
that's clarified,
But
it's,
not able to actively participate in day-to-day operations in there. So
I
I mean,
would say, or part of the,
so we can put
Madam
in,
First Selectman, I've got this. How we're going to do it is by definitions. You're going to have volunteer as defined. I'm going to have a new section defining a retired volunteer. And that's someone who is not a volunteer, but who has the following: age 65, whatever our requirements are, and remains active in some degree. And then that would be in 636. And then other sections, I'll say each eligible volunteer or retired volunteer. So there's an easy way to write it so no one is effectively double dipping, claiming I'm a retired volunteer and a volunteer at the same
But we
time.
also have to put in there resident, or not a resident, but has real estate or personal property in the town of Seymour.
Yeah, I was going to wait, Clay. I agree. When I get that language from you, I was going to incorporate all of that for everyone to see as a retired volunteer. The definition of retired volunteer would include someone who is not an active member, someone who minimum age of 65, minimum 25 years of service with the Seymour Fire Department, not active, but is performing some level of volunteerism or activity with the department, as you read for us.
One more thing, should we state there as determined by the Seymour Fire Department? That we determined that they were somewhat active, or how are we gonna specify that?
So just like you guys have your call sheet, I would assume that you are going to have a log sheet of, did they help with the pancake breakfast? Did they help with the lobster dinner? Do they help with popcorn ball Sunday, some plant sale? You would have a list of community activities that they are helping with.
I would
Okay.
agree. I think the way your ordinance is written now, it states that the amount of an abatement shall be determined by the applicable point system, approved, adopted, and reviewed periodically by the Board of Fire Commissioners and the Board of Trustees of the Ambulance Association. I think you'll have to go into your own rules and come up with some kind of a point system, a point for the pancake breakfast, a point for a
That's
car
in
wash, whatever you do.
That is in place, so that would put it onto the same list as active firefighters, but in the recording system, they would still be there and they would accrue points simply for doing the activities. And that would be there, and we can just include them in the printout that's submitted to the town yearly. That works. Okay,
Okay. Whatever's gonna work for you guys is what has to work, right?
okay. And I will get the copy of what I had written to Rory so that we can get it to you guys. Do you want a copy of the Oxford tax abatement also?
No,
Okay,
we can't really use it,
Right.
okay,
but thank you.
okay.
So I think we're good on the 65 plus. I mean, it's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I know we still have a lot of people helping out with that. So it's nice to be able to reward them. And that would be the same amount of money as well, the $1,500, correct?
Yes, that's up to you. If that's how you
Well,
put it.
I'm asking Rob and Bob. Yeah. No offense, Clay.
That's okay.
Bob, you're muted again. You're talking.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, so, and that would be the 1,500, and for somebody over 65, that will help them, tax wise, property tax wise, I would think, because they would have a home. Maybe. All right. Great. So we need a motion, Brian?
Yes, madam.
So we need a motion on the floor for the 65 and older.
I'll make the motion to amend the 65 or 25 to add 1,500 to it and all the things we just recommended. I can't remember them all.
65, 25, resident of Seymour, property owned in Seymour, use for taxable property. Right.
Some
Okay, and we
level of
have a second?
activity.
Rob,
Yes, second.
Bob Finley motioned it. Rob Van Egan second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 3.
Yeah, I'm happy about that one. That's good.
Yeah, me too.
Can I say thank you?
Absolutely.
On the record.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Finally done. Now you can let everybody know on that one, Clay.
I will.
My notes went someplace.
The dog ate
Oh, the dog.
him.
Which one?
Mm,
Okay, municipal liens and permits. Number 7, Brian Leclerc, and I think I know what this one is about.
You're all set with me, Emery?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much.
Is this
Thank you.
this is an item from me? This is an item
you,
from
Clay.
me?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
And
Clay.
welcome.
You good?
Stay safe.
Thank
I
you.
can say what this one is about.
Okay, Rory.
If that works. And are we done with Doug as well?
Yeah,
think-
I think we're done with
yeah.
it. I believe so. Thanks, Doug.
See you later, Doug.
Okay,
Bye, Doug.
sure, bye.
So this stems from, as you guys are probably aware, there was a fire on Main Street.
Yeah.
And the property owner, there were several apartments in the building. The property owner has not been cooperative at all. And so there's a state law that requires the town to house people who are rendered homeless by any kind of code violation. Brian, maybe I'm saying that wrong, but so the fire constitutes one. The landlord absolutely refused to house any of the people. I think we ended up with about 10 different housing units that we ended up having to house at a cost of $4,000 a piece. That's the maximum that the statute allows or requires a municipality to spend. So we took on about a little over $20,000 in doing this. And so what we attempted to do, the Board of Selectmen had passed a few years ago an ordinance requiring people to be up to date on their property taxes in order to be issued a permit. We attempted to use that ordinance to withhold a building permit to collect payment for housing this person's residence. But Rich told us that the ordinance that we have in place was not sufficient. I do not know if the statutes allow us to put one in place that would prevent this situation going forward, but I asked Anne Marie and we put it on the agenda to see if you guys can address it. Yeah, Rob.
So if we broadened it, first out with the 10. Dude, Rory, either turn off that light behind you or stay right. Every time you move, it gets black.
Yeah.
Sorry,
There
I'll
you
do
go.
this.
That's perfect. So I understand the situation there and the quandary that put things in. Right now, would we be able to put a lien, the town put a lien against him for that money as one thing? And then if we change the language, if the town had a lien against you, would that be sufficient to block giving out a permit because you have an unpaid lien?
So that's what we did do. So the statute doesn't require that we go without payment, but a lien can remain unpaid. And again, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, until the property changes hands.
Right.
Yeah, but we couldn't say no to giving him a permit because that was only about property taxes.
Correct, and that's exactly what happened. So there is a lien on his property, which is owned by an LLC. And so, even if this gentleman were to pass away or something, it would remain in the LLC.
We would have to foreclose on the lien. The town would have to foreclose on its lien, which it could do.
All right. So can we amend it so that it's not just unpaid property tax, but any lien against the town would be sufficient to not give permits and things like that? Is that what we're moving towards?
That's what I was requesting.
Yeah, and
you guys to
I
take a look at, but I don't know legally, I'll defer.
Yeah, that's what I want to find out.
I'll take a look at that. I see the question now.
Rory, when he said he's not cooperating, what does that mean? So,
so again, the statute, so I'll speak first to the housing aspect. The statute requires the town to step in only when the landlord does not. Essentially these people and Brian, again, correct me, I'm not a lawyer here. These people have a lease with him. And so, you know, he's required, if the issue is a problem with the housing itself, he is required to continue housing them per the lease. But he was essentially claiming he had no responsibility, and he tried a bunch of underhanded things to get around this. He pressured some of the tenants to sign a document ending their lease. He issued them their security deposits so that there was, you know, no outstanding financial arrangements between them.
This was while they were standing on the street, wasn't it?
No,
Yes.
this was in the coming days. That comes later. I'll get to that part.
Okay.
And then, you know, when he would call us, you know, I answered the phone and he would ask questions, and I said, you know, as far as the town is concerned, these people are still your residents. And so that's when he took additional action. You know, he would text his residents and pressure them to kind of renounce their tenancy. It just was very underhanded. And then additionally, yes, the night of the fire, you know, there are certain protocols that the fire marshal follows. He refused to come to the apartment that night. He sent an agent to take custody of the building, which is, you know, a legal requirement. And, you know, the fire marshals can't necessarily do anything about that, but he's just, he's done as little as he can legally. And he, when we put the lien on his property, his attorney reached out and asked for a discount on the lien. So, which we were not inclined to agree to.
Oh, this guy's a piece of work.
Definition of slum. Oh, were there any illegal apartments in the building that you found out when all was said and done?
That's where I was gonna go.
I mean, Brian, can we answer?
Yes.
Yes. There were.
And so there was illegal apartments, and now we're assuming the problem with the tenants because he's not assuming any of the liability.
Correct.
He had a lease with the people.
And now he wants to fix up his place, and he
This
needs.
sounds more like a lawsuit to me. I mean, I don't know. I'm no lawyer, but it's that doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah.
Rory's correct. The municipality has an obligation under the statute to make that payment for these displaced tenants.
Oh, I'm not questioning
So-
that.
Oh, no.
Owner though. I mean,
Right. I get that, but no, and your point is you have a claim against him for the money back, whether it's a direct action to get it back or a foreclosure of a lien that's put on the property by the town. Yes. I thought that was your question, but yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about, and in that discussion relating to two totally separate things. One is, how's the town going to get our money back from this
Person.
is being generous? And second, to prevent something like this from happening in the future, how do we ensure that we have got the ability to block them from moving forward on things if they owe us money? And that is to expand the current wording. So it's not just property taxes, but kind of if there is a lien, if anything is owed to the town, you're not getting a permit till that's cleared up. So, I mean, I would have Brian put that into whatever legalese will be the most far reaching, but yeah, I don't want someone to be able to not pay what is owed in a situation like this and then get a permit, get their thing built as quickly as possible and go right back to the same.
did we issue a permit to him already? I'm assuming.
Yeah, we had to.
Well, you don't have to, right? I mean,
We have to.
make it difficult.
They can sue.
Yeah, so, we have to, and there's a statutory requirement. I believe maybe it's 30 days. So we could have dragged our feet, but, look, we
You
recalled
want the
that
building
this,
right. Yeah, I get that because it would just been a time-based problem then. It just
correct.
would-
We just be delaying the inevitable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We want to be able to totally block anything from happening until something like this is resolved in the future.
That would be the idea.
Yeah. So
And Brian, is legally we can do that?
I have to take a look at that, to see whether we can block a building permit based upon this, because I know the statute, the Uniform Relocation Assistant Act 8-266, I believe, of the statutes, talks about the lien for those displaced to have the same priority as municipal taxes. So it's a very strong lien. It jumps ahead of everything, including any mortgages on the property. So we have a very high priority lien for this 20,000 in the case Rory was talking about, that we can go in and basically foreclose on, foreclose everyone out on the property quickly
Now-
and get folks' attention.
But like when you do it to a permit though, that hurts us because it just it'll slow down the any beautification or getting the thing back up and running, anything that we need him to do. So I don't know if the permit is the angle you'd want to go on. I don't know.
Again, I think there were somewhere around 10 units of housing here. So, let's say they were $500 a month. That's $5,000 a month that this gentleman is missing out on. So he'd recoup that in 4 months by just paying the lien.
Yeah, I think this is, Bob, to your point, there's other avenues, but this is going to be adding to the carrot stick bag. We could flat out say, you will not move forward on this until this is paid. Make a partial payment and we'll give you the first permit. You work with us, we will help you with the process.
You're saying you can negotiate it at that point.
Yeah, if the town has the ability to completely shut it down for a lien, at least then you have, because like Rory said, even though he owes the money, if it was property taxes, you could have said no, but with this, legally, we had to give him the building permit. So at least it would have been that, give us a good fit, give us 10, $5,000. We're going after what, 40? Or 40 is the max in the statute. We're looking at like 20 something.
It was $4,000 per apartment, basically. And so it totaled 20,000 with all of the various apartments.
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, it could have been like, give us $5,000. You get, along with your whatever. Show us that you're working towards this and paying it back, and we'll work with it.
I've only done a handful of these. We don't have many multi-unit apartment buildings in Seymour. Most of the times that I've done a handful of these, it's usually maybe a 2-family home where you have a landlord type situation. So it's not usually to this extent, but there was a lot of administrative work that went into. I was playing hotelier for 3 weeks trying to get these people situated. 20,000 is just what it cost us in terms of outlay. And in a year like the one we're in now with so much financial uncertainty, 20,000 is nothing to, scoff at. So.
And then just ask the next question, are we doing anything about the illegal apartment so that it doesn't happen again?
Or who does?
And so, as this gentleman goes to repair his building, he will have to comply with building and fire codes. I believe it was the fire marshal who, kind of diagnosed the illegal apartment because I believe there wasn't sufficient entry and exit to the apartments. They are going to be holding him to the code.
He wouldn't get a certificate of occupancy for that.
Correct.
illegal apartment, then in fact, if he did continue, the fire department could go and inspect any multi-tenant building like this and issue a cease and desist order, and potentially criminal charges, I believe, against someone who, is violating the state building code
Is there
in a health and safety
any
manner.
penalty?
But you have 5 tenants right now, and only 4 can go back in there. And they're all leased to that guy. So how does that work? It may have nothing to do with us, but they have that issue. He has that issue where if he has 5 tenants that are leasing from him.
Which he washed his hands on.
Yeah, my understanding is that this gentleman has other buildings, which was part of the frustration. He had empty units and refused to house these people.
Yeah, okay, that's a problem because I'm thinking about it from the hotel now. 4 only, now to get that one that may not be able to go into housing or may struggle.
And I don't think that these were particularly expensive units. And I get the feeling that in that price range, maybe, it's an attractive option.
Okay.
Hmm.
Wow.
So yeah, to reiterate, I'm in support of expanding the language to other ways somebody may owe the town money.
Yeah, I'm in talking through this. I think I'm on board with something like that because at least gives you a little bit of leverage from a negotiation standpoint.
Yeah, you don't have to use it, but you can.
There is a
Absolutely, just another
statute.
tool.
And there is a statute. Any person who violates any provision of the Connecticut Building Code shall be fined not less than $200 no more than $1,000, or imprisoned not more than 6 months, or both.
Ooh.
So that usually gets folks' attention. They get arrested.
Yeah, that'll
It's just not having an illegal apartment violating the building code. There's a big stick that can be waved by various people within the town.
And I'll say, our enforcement officers are very fair. They do not target people. They do not, go initially for the highest fine or anything like that. They work with people, but only when they get cooperation.
Yeah. All right. Motion to expand the language as directed by Rory and clarified by Brian to expand to more than just property tax.
second it.
Okay. Motion by Rob, second by Bob. All in favor? Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Brian, just as a question, should we be more definitive in our motions than any before?
No, I think we're okay. I think we're fine what we're doing at this point.
Because this is going to come back to us. We'd see what it would be before this just gets passed on to the Board of Selectmen. So if it
Right.
came and Rory said specifically anyone I deem to have to pay me, we could say, whoa, that's a little off. No.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at this to see exactly what we can do closely here.
Rich seemed to be unsure whether it's even possible. There's typically enabling legislation, so there may be nothing that's available to us, but.
Yeah, and Rob, I was just asking from a Robert's Rule standpoint of making motions.
Yeah. Look, Patrick's not on the Ordinance Committee. We don't have to be crazy about
Just trying to be careful.
He's listening. He's always listening.
Madam Chair, you forgot to say. Gotcha. Okay, good. The next one on our list, item number 8, is Article 2 of our ordinance. If you remember, I stated, let's start going through our ordinance and seeing what we can change and where should we start. And we say the best place to begin is always the best place to start is always in the beginning, right? So boards and commissions, committees and agencies. And, you know, in my, was it my second week, Rory? When I was in the office and you said, let's just look at this. And we could not believe how many things dated back to like 1960 that we don't even use anymore, but yet they're there and they don't make sense.
Can we have a welfare advisory board?
Rory?
That's Rory.
Yeah, yeah. If it's nobody else, it's always me. My understanding, you know, Lucy McConnell just retired after 37 years of service to the town. My understanding is at one point, Lucy served as the town's kind of welfare officer, because before welfare was administered at the state level, it was administered locally, going back. So I think it was probably an oversight board going back to that arrangement.
So I think maybe the best way to go is individually, like what Rob found, what, you know, Bob found, what Rory found, what I found, and what we want to change. This way we're not just going all over the board, because we may have found the same things.
Do you want to start with Division 2, Committee on Aging? Does anyone have anything to say about it? Rather than,
Yeah, I think we should just, if we're gonna do it that way.
yeah, I would run item by item. If there's nothing to say about it, we just, okay, we acknowledged it, bam. So we're not jumping from page to page.
That's great. So Division 2, Commission of Aging. Did anybody have anything on the Commission of Aging?
No, nothing jumped out at me.
I thought that one was fine.
When whatchamacallit, charter, where there was talk of combining it with what's the other similar one? Brian, help me.
Was it recreation? We're putting it with rec or community services or.
No, I think it was rec community service. There was
And we had long talks about that.
Aging and rec were supposed to be merged into community
that's
service.
what it was.
That's right. Right.
But
The only thing that I saw is, let's see, you know, it talks, there's in a lot of these, there's talks of kind of staggering the membership. And I think they, again, date back to how they were the first enacted. But this one, so they're in, so I don't know if it's worth striking that language in any of these, but this one specifically says, all terms shall begin on April 1st of the year in which the appointment is made.
Yeah.
Which if somebody were to resign April 2nd, you know, I don't know what would happen.
Well, there's a provision for vacancies, though. Vacancies shall be filled. So really, you're just, you know, the term, my term may have begun April 1st. And if I resign April 3rd, someone is put in to finish my term. So it's that same term that began on April 1st. So I think you're okay with that because it's the first selectman under 2-35 filling the vacancy for the remaining portion of the unexpired term of the person who resigned.
Just on a separate note, there currently is a committee on aging. Are they active and are they prepared to come before, let's see, annual reports no later than December 13th?
There is a commission. They are active. They are not currently meeting. Mary, when we started with everything COVID related, I asked her to reach out to the Commission on Aging and the Recreation Commission and just, you know, tell the chairs, if you guys want to meet, you know, by all means, we can meet. It will be by Zoom. Here's how we'll do it. And to my knowledge, nobody has reached out.
Okay, so probably no update on before December 13th.
I would say it's probably a big fat no.
Yeah.
At the first, so I have one under the charter reference for the vacancies and appointed boards, section 2-36 organization. At the first meeting in April, the Committee of the Aging shall elect a chairman, vice chairman, and secretary from among its members who shall serve until the 31st of the ensuing year.
It's not April 31st.
What?
Is it definitely, I'm assuming they mean March 31st since the next term starts April 1st.
I
That's
would
what
assume March 31st, but it could also be December 31st.
Whether that's a typo by the code publisher, I don't know. We could try to figure out, Rory, if that's a mistake the code publisher has when they Unicode made, or whether in fact, I guess we'd have to look at the code of 61, section 2-15, which was not on computer, I can guarantee you. Assuming we have one of those code books, there may have been a mistake when it got typed, or why don't we check that? Otherwise, you're correct. We would have to clarify whether we wanted until March 31st, I'm assuming. We
So
can
that's-
go check with the town clerk, have her pull up those records from the 61 code.
Do we have to define starting date, ending date, or can we put 1 year per start of term? I mean, can we simplify that or no? We have to define the start of term. That's what I'm curious.
No. Well, 1 year from the start of the term. You could do that if you wanted to. It depends, but it goes with the appointment date. So remember, you're appointing people with terms beginning on April 1st. So the idea is every April 1st, you're going to have your new contingent who at that first meeting in April, all the new people will elect the officers for the coming year. You can have a situation where you've got someone who didn't begin until June, and if you're giving them until next June, but their term's up in April, you're going to have interim positions. I think this makes more sense doing it this way.
Okay. So we can just check on, so you'll check on, we'll have the town clerk check on that.
I will. I'll ask her to check to see the 61 code to see if there's a typo that we have to tell the code publishers about, or whether in fact we could just do a quick amendment to make it clear that it's March 31st.
Oh, also, under annual report, how do you spell 13th?
It depends.
Oh, 30th, not 13th. 30th. So I just can't read was the problem. I thought that was a random date to report by the just to get it in before the holiday.
Before the holiday parties begin, yes, yeah.
Exactly. Got to be able to get that Christmas shopping without listening to all this stuff.
Yeah, the second week of Advent or something, coincided. I don't know.
All right.
Are we on the next one, the Board of Ethics, or?
Yes.
I just one sentence I was curious on in the 247, the last sentence. Says each member shall serve until the successor has been appointed.
In it for life, dude. In it for life.
Can you really state that though?
Yeah, that's just so we don't have a vacancy, because you could have a situation where the Board of Selectmen forget, neglect, appoint someone who refuses to be sworn in, who's not sworn in. It keeps a full contingent on the commission unless and until someone is sworn into the position, so they can continue to operate and conduct business.
So when
So
was the last time
each
they
member
met?
shall serve doesn't define that they're actually active. They could walk away and he'd still be considered under service, and then, right, and then the successor would be appointed. Is that what so there's no vacancy in the role, is that?
Right, there's no vacancy unless you either move from the community or
5 years?
die.
You're on
die,
that board
resign.
for 5 years.
Full on board.
They have not met as long as I've been in the town.
5 years.
I'm
That's
assuming
2
it's on the website. Who's on that?
What's 5 years, madam, for a selectman?
That the board term for the Board of Ethics.
Oh, you're on ethics. I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought we were still talking about.
No, ethics.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hold on, I'm checking to see who's on that board.
And what do they?
Shall be for a term of 2 years. You can't do it for more than 5.
Oh, it's a session of 5. Thank you. See, I'm not the only, all right, good.
Bruce Baker, Mike Maggot, Joyce.
Bruce Baker's dead.
Yeah, they're just reading the list here.
Oh.
James Garfalo. And
Oh, yeah.
Frankie. So those are the names that are up there.
Frankie Casanova.
Mm.
All right, well,
Think it's time to revisit some of these boards.
lady first select woman, you're gonna get to fill some positions, start appointing people.
Lori,
Trump
can you
Yeah.
say the last time they were appointed.
So the 5-year limits is something that I was unaware of until we reviewed this. Because again, I don't think anybody has been replaced on the Board of Ethics. I think everybody has been there since I came.
So they're all done.
We're gonna need to reconstitute the board.
Okay, so we need a new Board of Ethics.
Got that.
Well, there's another problem too. Your ordinance is referring to the wrong section of the charter. It's actually section 12.5, and your charter has 5 members and shall serve for a term of 4 years. 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, 1 U for a total of 5 members, appointed by the first selectman, serving 4-year terms.
Also, 4-year terms, but you can only serve 5 years total.
And
That
it
was the
says
charter
boards composed of 5 resident electors, no more than a bare majority. So you could do 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats for what we're looking at here.
Not under the charter though.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We have to be consistent with the charter. Your ordinances cannot go against the charter.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so Board of Ethics needs a total overhaul to be in line with the charter. Muted.
Look at us kicking ass and taking names. Hey.
Anne Marie, we're not catching
Hammer, you're muted.
what you're saying. I
You got
picked
that. We read that.
The board is scheduled to meet. Crap, hold on. This board is scheduled, the Board of Ethics is scheduled on November 25th at 7:00 PM. On the calendar. I just looked at the town calendar, it says they're gonna meet.
Can,
They may have just put in a yearly schedule prophylactically, and if having
Yep.
no business, that's typically what's done.
So
Supposed to
we
meet
need,
every
That's
other
the
month,
last time they met.
last Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. That's
okay,
the-
who's the chair?
Bruce
It does
Baker.
not reference in the. Yeah. Page here.
I believe Mike Maggot was the chair.
so we need a new Board of Ethics is what we've come out. We need 2 Ds, 2 Rs. And 1 year, right?
Yeah, that's what the charter says.
All right,
I much prefer, rather than looking for a U, I much prefer no more than a bare majority. I think
Well,
that,
the trouble is we'd have to go to a charter revision to change the charter
oh yeah, and I'm just, the next time that happens, that's it.
next time.
Board, make them all bare majorities.
And maybe something that while we're talking, that's actually a good point, Rory. If you have a permanent file on charter revision, it makes it easier for municipality just to set up a folder and make a note. Next time charter revision, don't forget to think about this.
I know we got a list of 22 some odd things from Kurt and I think the Board of Selectmen when we went into it.
Right?
Yeah. Well, we went through each one of them. I remember.
Yeah.
That was Kurt and I doing what you guys are doing now, just kind of sitting down and comparing notes.
Now we know your pain.
I'm feeling your pain.
The charter's a lot shorter than the ordinances, so.
Yeah.
All right, so that's one thing, Board of Ethics.
Total review.
Oh,
And
So
I
now
believe
we're
we
on,
are. Yeah, we are there. Yeah, the Board of Selectmen is the Municipal Flood and Erosion Control Board.
We are. So can we take that out or no?
No, we have to designate one. Every community needs to designate one.
Yeah, that's a Connecticut statute, right?
So can we just say the Board of Selectmen?
Well, it
got
does.
Well, it
Selectmen
does.
constitute.
It was
Board-
already in there. Never mind. Stop it.
Everybody clears itself.
All right. All right, I don't think I had anything in that.
Purchase, condemn. Authority to purchase, condemn property.
Where are you?
We're the
Division 4?
erosion control.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just scrolling through that one. Municipal Flood and Erosion Control Board. I was just looking at 2-64. Authorized. I don't remember anything jumping out. Costs against property. There's a lot of power in that one. There's a lot to unpack in erosion control as far as assessments and legalities. So that one, I don't want to make it a whim. I'm going to reread that one later. Did anybody see anything in it before that? Bob, looking at you.
What's that?
Did you have anything in the erosion control board?
No, that was, I just left that one alone. There was a lot of depth to that one, so.
Yeah, why don't we make table that specific division to talk about next time?
And Rob, if you want to take a look, if you're going to roll up your sleeves, look at Connecticut General Statutes 25-84. That's SEC 85, 86, 87. That talks about a lot of these same things. It gives the powers of municipalities to have these boards, and it talks about taking of property, bonds, assessments, assessment due dates, payments, segregation of funds, delinquent payments. That's all in the Connecticut General Statutes if you want the background for this ordinance.
25, 84, 87?
Yeah, well, 25-84 to 25-98.
Ooh, a lot of stuff.
It's all in chapter, Title 25 of the statutes, chapter 477. So the best is look at 25-84 of the statutes and then everything that comes after that for a while.
Okay. Emery, we were saying maybe because there's so much involved, let's just take and maybe next meeting, one of the issues, just looking at Municipal Flood and Erosion Control Board.
Yeah.
So we'll put that on the next one, which brings us down to safety. Are we on Safety Commission now, or use of proceeds? Safety Commission, where we all do the safety dance. You can dance if you want to. You can leave your friends behind.
I was just thinking that. So on the first paragraph, where it says the building inspector, the town director of civil defense. We do not have a town director of civil defense. We took civil defense out of all our stuff and brought it back up to the NIMS statement of emergency management director. So
Do we just have to amend the language in the ordinance, or try to plug that with another position?
I would just use the emergency management director as the title.
I would take the word, the town director of civil defense, and just put the town emergency management director, like Bob said. Go ahead.
This is one, Brian, is this statutorily required?
Safety Commission? I don't believe so.
So there exists, although they do not meet frequently, the local emergency planning committee, which is, the emergency management director, the first selectman, members of the police department, fire department, ambulance association.
Which is on that board, but
Yeah, so I don't know what aspect of safety this was trying to address. If it's public safety, then another body already exists that is required.
I thought that's what that was, to be honest.
And what we
Yeah.
did find out, Brian, and you'll find this hysterical because we both share in the environmental humor of the Department of Environmental and Energy Protection, is that the CERC still has Bob Kowskalowski as the first selectman and Mike Driscoll as the LEPC chair.
Wow. That's
I-
a little outdated
Wow.
and troubling in the event of an emergency if they're trying to find the correct individual to contact as well.
Exactly. And, and they talk about going regional, like North Haven, New Haven, they're all regional now. They have the whole hazmat. So I don't even know if Bob DiCaprio is still up there to say, listen, you guys got to update your site. Not even us. And I think the Valley is semi-regional on their LEPC. I thought that's what that area said. Hold on.
I recommend.
I'm sorry. I spoke to Tom Amy about that. He said he's
Yeah.
tried multiple times to get them to update the website. I
Yeah.
emailed them separately to see maybe if that would do any good, but
Roy, were you saying that this is redundant then?
that's what I'm wondering. It says the duties are to recommend to boards, committees, and commissions as needed when the situation arises.
Foster promotion of safety for the citizens.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the safety dance committee, that's one thing, but otherwise they've got it covered.
Anne Marie, you're on the one that he mentioned, the emergency planning?
I've been on the local emergency planning since 1992, even when after I wasn't here and I left the state and then I came back, I was put back on it. So according to 22A 610B of the Connecticut General Statutes, the State Emergency Response Commission is designated local planning districts by notifying the chief elected official in each municipalities. They did do a regionalization. There are 5 regional. If I can share my screen. I don't know how to do this work. There, okay. There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So I wonder if I can zoom. There we go. This is regional Shelton, Seymour, Ansonia, Derby. We are part of the South Central. A little box is in my way. The
Yep, I
South
see this
Central
right now.
region. So we are part of a regional area.
Okay, so the planning committee was a much larger geography than I was thinking. So
Yeah.
I could understand why the idea was to have something Seymour specific, probably that would have an ear on the emergency planning regional one, just so again, just to be Seymour specific to health things.
Yeah, if anything, I guess they were trying to say, okay, well, the South Central region is going to take care of, this area right here, but it's kind of tough because North Haven, New Haven, East Haven, they have their own region. They have a special hazmat division and everything. So we really need to get a hold of the DEP CERC. And I know Tommy tried several times to get a hold of them how do I stop share? To get back to them to update it. So I think it's just.
The other thing is, this is one of those parts of the code that's from 1961. So I think it predates, a lot of the other parts,
Right.
the other safety considerations.
But under EPCRA, the emergency, right to know act, where everybody in the community has the right to know what manufacturer is developing chemicals or storing chemicals. Under EPCRA, you have to have an LEPC because, like the industrial parks, they send their tier 2s or their Form Rs, their chemical list. That has to go to your LEPC. It has to go to your fire department. So when they have to go fight fires, we don't have another latex foam. Ansonia Fire Department didn't know that latex foam had anhydrous ammonia. So when they were pouring water onto the fire, we were having issues because ammonia goes to water, which sets off more fumes. So that's why we have to have the LEPC. So it's not something we have to get rid of. I don't know if I would put the name, label it a safety commission. Maybe if we can rename it something. Or just put it under the emergency management director. Yeah, Waterbury schools are distant learning. Yeah.
I think it should be on emergency management director, but
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, you know, in everything that I've done and everybody that I work with, if your LEPC chair is your fire marshal. But when Paul Wedowitz was fire marshal, he always said he never had time for it. He never had time for it. He never had time for it. So Tom Amy was dealing with it, and we just gave it to our emergency management director. Even with Timmy, he's so busy doing his things, I don't even know if he'd have enough time. So I just think that maybe the LEPC should go with emergency management director. Rory, what are you thinking?
You know, this is one of those things that when reading through, I was surprised to learn existed. And you know, my general thought is if we haven't used it, then why do we have it? And I'm always for, you know, reducing, you know, getting rid of unnecessary things. But if it's a different role than the LEPC, you know, could the LEPC be used to fill a local role, you know, in addition to the regional one?
So you know how we have our Thursday safety meetings, our Thursday public safety? That's basically your LEPC right there. Everybody that's involved in your call is your LEPC.
And you know, the other part is, do you really need to formalize, right? Like this doesn't give them any actual power.
No.
And so what is the point of this?
Back in the days in the 80s, the LEPC had the right and the authority to go into a facility and ask for the chemicals. But then we just had some cowboys and they decided to take all that power back.
Yeah, and I mean, this one, it just, you know, the language is very vague.
Yeah.
okay.
To make recommendations, which, you know, happens anyway. You know, I would be for removing it just to have one less thing in the ordinances.
So are we making a recommendation to take division 5 out, the safety commission? Or just label the safety commission the local emergency planning commission?
Do we not have that? Yeah, I guess we don't have that covered, right?
That exists by state statute.
Right.
Right.
So maybe that's what but that's maybe we should replace the safety commission with that. I see why you're saying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I right now I would say keep it in ordinance. If we got to update it and change form, have it follow what we're doing. I'd be afraid it would kind of fall through the cracks if it's not in ordinance, even though there's crap in here that everybody's forgotten about.
So are we saying we keep safety commission in?
And we relabel it?
Rename it.
Yeah. The LEPC.
Yep.
That next is.
What do you think? Because we can't take it off because of state statute.
What's that?
LEPC is covered under a state statute.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to put the LEPC into the ordinances so that if the state should get rid of the statute, it still exists, then that's one thing. But I would argue that's a different function than what is in.
Being written here. Oh, the
Yeah.
duties. Right.
So I wouldn't call it a replacement. I think you're basically drafting something new at that point anyway.
All right.
Okay.
So take out section 5, or division 5.
Because we have the LEPC through statute.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
You're gonna have to break it to Jim and everybody else that they're not on it anymore. As long as you can do that.
Who's on our LEPC? Did we look at
The
that?
what now?
Okay, so
All right, so do we have a motion to get rid, are we making a motion?
want to flip a coin, Bob? Who's gonna do it?
I'll make the motion to remove the safety.
When the whole town goes to hell.
I'll
I'll
make
second
the
that.
motion to remove safety from the town. That's just what I want my name on.
I got to give the firefighters $1,500 and you took away.
I take away safety.
Second.
Holy cow. I'm just looking at the last time that meeting met was the 17th. Was August 24th, 2000.
1983.
So yeah. All right, so we had a motion by Bob Finley, second by Rob Van Egan to remove division 5.
What happens to the numbers? Will it just skip that or do they get?
No, it'll probably say reserved.
Oh, gotcha.
We
In the
can't-
future, we could add something if it would go into that slot.
We can.
Oh, neat. Okay.
I think we can remove the welfare advisory board too, right?
Honestly, when I read it, I wasn't even thinking about welfare, the program. I thought they just meant the welfare of the townspeople.
Yeah, exactly. So can we remove them?
Yeah, one
There's no
second.
function, right?
Because,
The Welfare Advisory Board shall consist of 3 persons, not more than 2 of which shall be the same political party.
well, the powers came under 7-127 of the statutes, which related to municipal advisory welfare boards, but that was state statute was repealed.
Then I say
So-
let's strike it.
It was repealed only in 1982, though.
Only in 1980. I think I was just finishing my 7th grade at that time.
I was -1 year old. I'll make a motion to remove welfare advisory board.
Have a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor?
All right.
Motion
Aye.
carried 3-0.
I was thinking about where I was in 82. I was just starting high school, freshman.
What year did you graduate?
86.
Yeah, you were. Okay.
I was halfway through college.
Okay. All right, so we strike, that was Division 6, on to Division 7, Civil Preparedness Agency. It's not up to date. I think that is our Civil Defense is our Emergency Management Director, and I could have sworn we went through and changed that.
We did. So
Yeah.
this and the Communications Commission have both been updated. What we do with these is It costs a lot of money to change the ordinances on this website, and because it's bonded, it's not just updating it. We have to pay a substantial amount of money every time we make these changes. So what we tend to do is batch them.
Like bulk it, yeah.
And so these have not been updated yet, but have both been changed.
Okay.
This one, Roy, which two did you do up that we updated, 7 and which one?
So yes, so this is 7 and 8. Civil
7 and 8.
preparedness and communications.
Okay,
Civil preparedness, everything that said civil preparedness director just went to emergency management director, and communications commission, a new commission was formed, and the membership was all of the service chiefs.
that's what I
Okay.
thought. Okay.
Quick question regarding that, not about the wording here, but just in general. I feel like very recently we had, oh, by the way, we need to update this. Oh, by the way, we need to update this situations. Is all of that remedied by having this communications commission, which is going to be consistently on top of our ability to communicate, so we don't get stuck with a, by the way, we need to invest $6,000 right now, otherwise we can't do our jobs?
That's the dream. Yeah, so for example, they're administering the bond issue to update the emergency communications equipment. And this way, every service chief should have an idea what their requirements and issues are. So hopefully it will be a more effective configuration than the previous one.
Okay, some of the other boards had to report by the 30th or 13th of December. When's the next time we should get any report from communications about how they're doing? Anything else popping up? Is that a yearly, a quarterly?
We can put them on for the December meeting, Rory.
Yeah, we were actually just discussing how we're going to have Tim Connors at this tomorrow night's meeting and try to restart having the staff come to deliver periodic reports. So we'll make a note, and we'll have, I believe Tom Amy is the chair of the Communications Commission, so we'll have him come.
Okay, great. So those, this doesn't reflect changes, but those have been updated. I printed up because it costs money to do that. Gotcha. All right. Beautification. When did they meet last?
Wait, what number are you on?
Division
9, Division 9.
Thank you.
So this was another one I was surprised to learn about in reading. When I first started, there existed a Seymour Pride Committee,
Yep.
Okay.
which did something similar. But I believe, I'm not sure if they were a town entity or if they were sort of just a volunteer community organization. But again, with all of these things, it's I tend to believe we should eliminate things that we're not using unless we think they should be instituted, because technically it is a requirement that we set for ourselves that we're not meeting, which is an awkward situation to find ourselves in.
Bob, do you want to eliminate safety and beauty in Seymour?
I'm not saying a word.
It's like I said, I think this is just a remnant of an old time, and it might be something to look forward to have a goal for at some point in the future. But as of right now, I would rather leave this as a reserved division that we can go back to, rather than pretend we're going to do something that might not happen when there's kind of other priorities right now.
You're gonna laugh at me. This is one we should fill.
Oh, I agree. I want to see that. I just,
So for example, the Sustainability Committee has been doing 1 or 2 cleanup events every year, community cleanup events. I think part of the problem we have, and an initiative that we had started a few years ago, was to try to eliminate boards, to just reduce the number of boards. And we have something like 200 plus volunteer government positions in the town of Seymour. And we just don't have enough active people. And so when we have an ordinance that says there shall be a 5-member board, that's 5 more bodies.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I love the idea of a community organization that does beautification projects, and the town can work with them and partner with them. But the requirement for 5 additional volunteers, you know, we should be reducing that number if we can.
Well, they created a lot of silos. It would seem to me like this would fit into something else. It seems like there's a lot of just different silos. I mean, this could have been a board that did a few different things, you know? But
Yeah.
Well,
And-
looking
and-
at your minutes, it has Seymour Pride, the last minutes were from 2014. And if you look at those, they actually seem to rename it the Skate Park Committee. And prior to that, it was Seymour Pride. But for some reason, under Seymour Pride, you see Skate Park meetings minutes from 2014 and nothing after that.
I think that's just an error because of our naming convention. Seymour Pride was SPC, Skate Park was SKPC for the file. So I think it just went in the wrong folder.
Okay.
Fun.
That looks like they haven't met in 6 years.
Okay, well, then we'll keep it. We'll just make it active. And I think, Ms. First Selectwoman, you have to appoint Bob to be on it because he wants to see. I also love the idea of it. My wife will kill me with our impending child if I were to say I'll jump on it and start doing stuff. But I absolutely love the idea of trying to get people. And you know that there are people who are adamantly proud. I mean, how often do you see people with the, Seymour jackets? I mean, people are very, very proud of this town.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's as much as just asking them and being in the proximity to ask them, because we tend to just travel in this small circle of active people. So I think it's something worth finding. I think it's going to be a tough sell right now to grow that board. But yeah, is there anything, Bob, just from looking at it, is there anything in there you would want to change, even if it's just something that stays and is kind of dormant for 6 to 9 months until we see how?
my head's going where Rory was saying before, how we, all these boards came out. We're not a big town. I'm just kind of thinking of it as there's something we can combine a few things together and have a commission that includes beautification and other things. I don't know.
Rory, what would best suit it?
Well, so a couple of things, right? Like, in talking to some of the people who've been active in town forever, my understanding is somebody used to have to die for you to get a seat on like one of the town committees, right? People were very civically active, and that's just not the case anymore. So that's one part. And then the other thing that I'll say is, the Board of Selectmen can create a committee. And it doesn't have to be codified in the ordinances, right?
Absolutely.
So the Sustainability Committee, for example, was created by the Board of Selectmen, but is not codified with an ordinance. So at any point, the Board of Selectmen can just dissolve that committee without having to go through the process of dissolving or, removing the ordinance.
Yeah.
So those are just 2 bits of context.
Great point.
So get rid of.
Take out the beautification. This is on you.
That's right.
Yeah, I would say.
You can put my name. I'm doing the minutes. I'll make sure I blame me.
I would say this town is beautiful enough, so we can get rid of the beautification.
It's not beautiful enough. It could always be more beautiful.
Well, it's beautiful enough. We're going to dissolve the commission, but to maintain and possibly improve the board of. So we will advise the Board of Selectmen to create a beautification committee.
Not a commission, but a committee.
Committee. This is a commission ordinance BS, a lot of stuff. Committee, hey, it's working out well. We can amend, we can change. It's at the Board of Selectmen's whim, as Rory said. Rory's going to join it too.
As no longer a resident of Seymour, unfortunately, I'm not eligible to serve. I'd be
Yeah,
happy.
but somebody from out of town in that committee, I thought that was the whole freedom. We could just do whatever. I'm
Rory,
going to sell you a little 1-by-1 plot of land in my yard. Did you hear you could be a lord in Scotland now?
I have one of those.
So we have to call you Lord Burke?
I mean, if you'd like to.
Oh, Jesus, please,
Oh.
guys, don't.
Lord Burke. Motion to remove Beautification Commission.
Do you have a
Second,
motion? First by Rob Finley, second by Bob Van Egan. All in favor? Ray Carey.
I just got screwed.
Wait, how? Didn't you make the motion?
Rob's not gonna admit it now.
Rob Van Egan made the motion. Rory seconded it.
I did. Bob, I would have denied it, but there's video. It's recording. So.
Rob Van Egan motion. Rory second. All in favor? Aye. Motion
Aye.
carried 0.
Rob hates beautification. Employee Safety Commission. Is that not something that would be under our HR director now that we have an HR?
So we do have a safety committee.
Again,
OSHA says you have to have one.
I figured this should be an ordinance.
and I believe I don't know if we 100% meet the requirements laid out in this, where it's that there's 12 members, that there's not more than 2 from any one department. They're not appointed by the Board of Selectmen, our current members. So, I don't know, Anne Marie, if you could go into a little more detail on what OSHA requires, because again, if that supersedes this, maybe.
I think Brian would agree with me that OSHA supersedes this, unfortunately. So first selectman cannot appoint. OSHA has very stringent rules on their safety committees. You have to have a representative, at least 2 representative from each department on the committee. You have to have more hourly than you have managerial, because you don't want to have them, what's the word? I'm looking for Brian Leclerc. I say it all the time to my people. So when you have managers in the office, people become very meek and mild and they won't speak up against managers, right? So it's mostly made of, your safety committee is made up of peers. So if, this one is feeling that, someone is working on safe, they rather go talk to a peer than go talk to a manager, because when you go talk to a manager, you become snitches, and snitches get stitches, right? That's how.
Is that in the OSHA guidelines?
It is.
Yeah. They even show you how to do the stitches.
They do.
Crisscross pattern.
We teach that in the construction 10 class, not in construction 30, but in construction 10, we teach
Cement shoes.
Snitches get stitches. So that's why that's why it's more of an hourly than it is a managerial. The first selectman cannot pick, because then he's hand picking, or she is hand picking who she thinks will be more stringent, or who would be lackadaisical and not bring attitudes. It should be picked by your peers as to who, like we'll say Public Works. Public Works has, 20 people there. It should change off every year, because nothing really gets done in 6 months. And we all know this, right? So every year you should be changing your committee members so that new set of eyes are looking at it. When we do safety inspections, maybe somebody from the police department looks at Public Works, and Public Works looks at the office, or vice versa. So you always have with a new set of eyes. This does not meet the OSHA guidelines by any means and by all. sayings, and that it's governed by OSHA, so I'm not quite sure why we have it in the ordinance.
Yeah, 151A ends with appointment shall be made by first selectman.
Yeah, you just violated an OSHA rule and, 10,000. Well,
Okay, so we need to keep that, but it is totally out of line with OSHA.
we can sit there and keep it and say this committee must meet the OSHA general duty clause guidelines of a safety committee. And I can get you
And-
the,
Commission.
I can
And
get you.
ours meets every month, as it requires, and it meets with
Yep.
our workers' compensation provider. So
Mhm.
they're aware of all the OSHA requirements, so I'm sure they're making sure that we meet. I know Alex Bank is the chair. I know there's library, town hall, public works, and police represented on it, so.
In schools. Well, we should have schools because, when we're throwing paint down a sink and it off gases because there's no paint trap in there. And then we have the fire department going to the school and I'm like, what? But yeah,
Okay, so how are we going to get that in line? Is somebody in charge of that? How do we just work there? Or do we just
Lori, I'll get you the right wording for that.
Yeah,
Or if Brian wants to give us the wording for that, Brian.
Whatever your pleasure is.
motion to have Division 10 updated to be in line with OSHA ordinances?
Yes.
Second
Motion
that.
by Rob, second by
Me.
Rob Finley. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion Carries 3-0. Yes, okay. EDC,
Do you want to talk about EDC now, or do you want to make that its own?
let's make that its own night.
Yeah, because I got a lot I want to talk about with EDC.
Yeah, me too.
I could not believe it
Yeah.
when I read it. My
Oh yeah,
goodness.
well, yeah, not to get into it, but right off the bat, section 2, 106.3, industry of reports. And the first, it's just that there's existing buildings or adding onto existing buildings must submit a written report to the EDC. Type of building, blah, blah, blah. And all I could think of was shortly after being on the EDC, the place across from Tuttle's Insurance, right before Hot Tamales.
Yes,
I had people asking me what's going in there because they cleared it. And I said, I don't know. And we talked to Jim, and Jim said, well, no permits have been pulled. So that, we don't know. And I'm like, how is there not something where anyone developing should come to the EDC? And then I talked to the owners, and they had owned that land for a long time, had a nursery somewhere else, and now decided to do this. But now you see that there is a building, there's that little shed that they brought on to do the register, but they have a building under construction there. And I can tell you for damn sure, they never came to the EDC for anything. And it's the EDC.
they came to the Water Pollution Control Authority because they wanted to put bathrooms in there until we told them that it cost them over $50,000 to hook up because they'd have to run it and move lines and everything.
Oh, wow. But I mean,
So
just
there's no public bathrooms. They'll keep
Yeah.
their septic system.
the process. So EDC needs a total revamp. So I would absolutely make that its own night. Arts and Culture Commission.
Well, we don't have them in, we don't own the municipal theater anymore. That is owned by the Knights, so that needs to come out.
Was there any other part to that? Anything else that municipal theater arts?
The only thing I would say, and when we did the charter revision, one of our recommendations was to eliminate it from the charter because we had an ordinance. But if you remember the charter, they left it in, and the charter changed the membership of every board down to 5. So
Yeah.
charter revision was one of the few, along with EDC, that had to reduce to 5 members, but in the ordinance here it has 7. So at the very least, just bringing it in line with the charter
Okay.
and probably getting rid of the municipal theater.
Get rid of the municipal, it's 2 members, 1 year, 2 members, 2 years, 3 members, 3 years. The math doesn't add up.
Well, that, again, that was for the initial, after that, all appointments, 3 years.
Yeah.
So remove theater. Is this Kristen? What's her name? Who's on this? Because I see through DTC every now and then emails about events that they're trying to do.
So the Arts and Commission is Judy Simpson.
Yeah, that's
Sullivan.
yeah. I mean, they try. They're doing stuff. So that's
Yep.
good for them. Good for them.
They try.
Rory, what was the other change you wanted in there, Rory? You said again?
So from 7 to 5 members, and then where it says
Other thing.
the facilitation and operations of a municipal theater, get rid of that, because that's back when we rented the Strand.
Now the Knights of Columbus have it. What's his name?
$250 to put a happy birthday on that.
Marquee.
Thank you, Mark.
They're not running a charity. Well, they sort of are, but
Kind of. Yeah. What's that guy's name? John runs that.
Yeah. Donato.
All right, so the next one is Municipal Aquifer Protection Agency.
You have anything you want to say about this, Anne-Marie? I feel like there's a little more up your alley.
This is filled by our Conservation Commission.
Yeah. So no, it's good because in accordance, it falls under Connecticut General State Statutes.
Correct. We actually, the Deep reached out to us because our Conservation Commission had kind of just fallen apart and we didn't know it. So they hadn't met in longer than is required by statute. So Deep reached out to us and we had to reconstitute it not long ago.
So in C, small letter C, it says Commission over Environmental Protections, Commission over Energy and Environmental Protection.
Mhm.
I just envision right now us having this magnetic board with every committee and commission's name on a plaque, and it's magnetic, so it moves. So we just have them all lined up, and every time we talk to one, we take their plaque off and move it down to the bottom, and so it keeps kind of rotating up, so we can't forget about one of these people for one of these groups for 3 years. You know, we just, oh, okay, but now we got to talk to these guys. We talk to them, move them down.
We'll put a board up like that. Oh, look, I have a board right there.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
keep a spreadsheet in our office. That's how we keep track of all of the appointments. All of the ones that I've recommended getting rid of, they're not even on that spreadsheet. I've kept that spreadsheet going from, my predecessor, and I don't know if she started it or, so.
Unbelievable.
Hmm.
Okay, and then the next one is Division 14, Friends of the Broad Street Park Commission. We have to remove that. We don't have that anymore.
I was gonna say, I thought we removed that.
They were
who
absorbed.
maintains that park now?
It was absorbed into parks.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Then we go into Strategic Planning Commission. I think we saved that for another night.
Yep.
Then I think that's it. On section Article 2.
So we just have to go back and do economic development and strat plan.
Yes.
I thought there was one. We're not
There
going to
was
think
one
with
more.
justices of the peace or the demolition officer?
What?
No, I
Hear you?
printed too many pages, so I had gone ahead to the next thing. And Division 4 and 5 are demolition and justice of the peace.
Okay. So our next meeting is on EDC, strategic planning, or just EDC is 1.
I would do EDC as one, strategic plan. I thought there was another one that we
So do
said.
I.
We said Division 11 we would do
Oh,
Oh,
later.
municipal flood.
Municipal flood.
Flood and erosion control.
Economic development for a later date, Division 11, Division 15 for a later date, Strategic Planning Commission, and Division 4 as well, municipal flood and erosion control.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could ask for priority, I would ask if we could get to EDC sooner rather than later.
I actually have that as number 1. And then I have strategic planning as 2 and municipal flooding as 3. What do you guys have?
Yeah, that's good for me.
Brian?
That's fine. Whatever
Right.
your pleasure is. That's fine.
Yeah, I think so.
Finley?
Good.
So let's just recap our 2-hour meeting. With the firefighters, we're moving that, we're going to 1,500. Abatement and abatement only, not giving a check. Correct?
And this is just what we're forwarding to the Board of Selectmen to do.
Yep.
Recommendation is up to 15, switch it back to how it was.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's going back to abatement and abatement only. We're not giving out checks. We're not giving out, well, if you made 1,500 points and your car tax was only $300, then we're going to give you a check for $1,200. It's
Nope.
not,
You just don't have a car tax.
yeah, that you have no car tax. Think of it that way. Who would love not to, then we have, the firefighters are getting paid $1,500. Okay, well, it's $1,500 off your taxes. Good for you, right?
Yeah.
So we have that. Then the 65-25.
Yep.
Again, $1,500. And you must be a Seymour resident. You must be active in the Seymour Fire Department, and it has to go towards personal property in the town of Seymour.
Yep, same abatement, yeah.
Again, no check.
Mhm.
Yeah. So just remember, there's going to be some glad handing there that we have to finesse this, how we're going to word this. And I think Rory said he was going to work on some wording, because there is some, there is going to be some people that are going to be upset.
Well,
Yeah.
I can't say because we're being recorded. Never mind.
No, we understand there's going to be some people upset. It's something that we need to do, and it's still our best effort to show our appreciation.
Exactly.
That
Right.
we can.
And we're following state rules.
Yeah.
What they're allowing us to do.
It's a volunteer. They leave their families, especially during the storms. We want to make sure we reward them, but in turn, we can't just give them a check either, because then we look into a paid fire department. We can't do that.
It's what we can do in the bounds of
The law.
both IRS and statute. That's what we can do. And
Right.
because of statute, we're raising it to 1,500.
That is correct. Now, you may get someone to ask, are we going to raise it to the 2,000 a year later? Because they're offering that, but
We'll see.
we can reassess at a later date.
And the one thing we have to make sure is when the fire commissioner gives us their name, when the fire commissioners give us the firefighters' names, the names have to come, to us for approval, but we have to make sure we ask them, are these all town residents?
Mhm.
And then we have to give it to Dana Flack, because they only get the abatement if they're current on their taxes.
Correct.
There were checks given out. We weren't checking to see if they were behind or not.
No.
They're just writing checks.
Not to rehash the issue, but let's say somebody was $800 behind on their taxes. Would this be able to be applied to that?
I don't know if there's a state law that says no, but I thought it says you had to be current on you had to be in good standings in your taxes.
Okay. I'm thinking if somebody only had let's say $400 car tax, and they missed 1 year, and we said, like, for the next year, you got to pay that 400 before we can forgive this year's 400, sort of thing. Of course, then if it was that, I could see somebody With,
I wouldn't pay my taxes for a
That's-
couple of years.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
actually-
just not pay taxes for 3 years, $500, and then take it the third year and let them. So yeah, I would say no.
Yeah, your ordinance already says in section 6-37, this abatement is only available to volunteers who are not delinquent in any tax obligation to the town of Seymour.
Yep,
Any meaning you cannot be delinquent in your car and get it on your real estate.
gotcha.
Right, that's good.
Statute.
And then Brian was gonna come up with, Rory's gonna write a letter to pass out to the commissioners and to the chiefs. Brian was coming up with a letter in regarding the municipal liens and permits. Correct?
Yep, broaden the language.
Right.
Yep.
We went through Article 2, we made the changes that we needed to do, got rid of what we needed to get rid of. We have all the motions on that. Our next meeting is for the EDC. The meeting after that would be on strategic planning, and the meeting after that will be on municipal flooding.
I'll put all of them on the agenda, and if you guys want to stop, you can just table it. But that way, if you want to move forward.
Yeah, we'll start with EDC, and if we bang it out in 20 minutes, we move on.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so then when do we want to have our next meetings? I know with Thanksgiving coming up, I know with the holidays, it may be tough for people.
I've got so many holiday parties to go to.
Yeah, no, you're gonna go to 5 every half hour. You zoom into a different meeting.
That's
Yeah,
right.
right?
It's gonna be a strange holiday season for all of us.
Hmm. We're looking at what's today? Monday,
The 16th.
30th.
Can anybody do the 30th?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think I can.
You would like, sure.
I think it's good if we meet the Monday before our Tuesday meeting. This
I
way,
like that time to process.
yeah, everything's fresh in our mind and it's keeping us honest as to, not honest, but it's keeping us on our toes as to what we gotta do and moving it along. Were you gonna say something, Brian?
No, I agree. It keeps us moving forward and fresh and not trying to remember what we've been doing. I agree.
Okay, so our next meeting is the 30th at 7.
Yep, that's what I got.
Okay.
I don't see any other meetings in my calendar, Rory, so I think I should be good that day, right?
Usually the end of the month is pretty quiet.
Nothing. Okay. Great. Thanks, guys.
You.
Thank you, guys.
Good job.
Motion to close the meeting?
What? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion, all right. Have a good night, guys.
All
Thank you.
right, take it easy, everybody. Stay
Bye,
safe.
guys.
See you tomorrow.
Thank